friends who are love experts.
Hey, Christoph.
I'm not buying it.
Stop talking.
The track
No.
installation has
I'd
now
like to
begun
meet these
on
people.
the Wandering Oaken sliding sleigh roller coaster that's being built within the Frozen themed land at Hong Kong Disneyland. So, Christoph, Anna, and Sven, let's all dive into the latest to do with this roller coaster. Up next. Hi there, Waltineers, I'm Jack, and this is of course DSNY Newscast, and before we get started, just want to say that if you'd like to receive a notification whenever I release a new video, then be sure to go ahead and tap that bell icon and select all notifications, so therefore that way you never miss a new DSNY Newscast video. But anyways, now let's get straight into the news. As when Frozen was released in 2013, to the surprise of many, including Disney, it launched a phenomenon that exceeded all expectations. So much so that for once, even Disney was a little bit behind the synergistic curve, and then later decided to reimagine Epcot's Maelstrom attraction into Frozen Ever After in 2016. But then, not long after the success and popularity of that attraction, it was announced that 3 Frozen-themed lands would be coming to Hong Kong, Tokyo, and Paris, which was a big investment by Disney, especially considering this was before the release of the sequel. However, last year came Frozen 2, and it actually grossed a bigger box office than that of the original. Even when adjusting the 2013 release for the 2019 inflation, Frozen 2 made more money at the worldwide box office, thus proving Frozen's longevity and brand resonance, and justifying this prolific park integration. But then we come to the first of all of these Frozen-themed lands that's set to open, and that is Arendelle, World of Frozen, being constructed at Hong Kong Disneyland, that still has a tentative completion date of late 2021. But as we've discussed in previous videos, which I'll link down below, all of these Frozen lands will have subtle differences and some form of variation on the Frozen Ever After attraction narrative. Although it's Hong Kong Disneyland that will also be receiving the exclusive of Wandering Oaken's sliding sleigh roller coaster, which in May of 2018, DSNY Newscast was among the first to reveal the change in plans from Oaken's dancing sleighs, which would have been an LPS ride system, to this new coaster within the revised concept art, and it seemed plausible at the time that it might use the same swinging ride car system found in Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. However, when it was officially announced at D23 Expo last year, we received this new piece of concept art that seemingly dashed all hopes for a more complex coaster design. As I theorised at the time, that instead it was to be a simpler kiddie coaster, as the seating configuration of 2 riders per car was akin to Goofy's Barnstormer rather than that of Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. But that isn't where this story ends, as recently HKDL of Fantasy on Twitter released these images of the track arriving on site and beginning to be installed, which provides some further insight. As you see, with Vekoma often being the manufacturer of choice for most of Disney's latest roller coasters, we had heard that the same was true for this upcoming ride, which this image seemingly confirms, as the track definitely aligns with Vekoma's design. But with Vekoma being the manufacturer for both Goofy's Barnstormer and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, you'd think it would be fairly easy to know which coaster to expect, as this coaster track does seemingly look closer to that of Seven Dwarfs Mine Train than that of the Barnstormer's 2-pipe design. But you see, the Barnstormer is actually an older Vekoma design, and recently Vekoma has moved to a more unified track design for most of their coasters, which includes Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, Tron Light Cycle Run, and even family-friendly off-the-shelf kiddie coasters like the Barnstormer, as is evidenced here with this Vekoma family Boomerang roller coaster. And so once again, it seems likely that we're looking at a version of a kiddie coaster for Wandering Oaken's sliding sleighs. But here's the thing, as when investigating the basic family-friendly off-the-shelf models that Vekoma currently manufactures, only the family-friendly 335 model is displayed on the website, which may indicate that the older version of Vekoma's Junior 207 coaster, which is the model used for Goofy's Barnstormer and Gadget Go's coaster in Disneyland, might have been discontinued in its current form. So instead, I decided to look into this family-friendly 335 design a little closer with this 3D rendering, and one part instantly stood out as sharing a distinct similarity to that of a track depicted in the sliding sleigh concept art, which in this side-by-side comparison you can see how this 335 model could possibly be this roller coaster. And the reason why I only say possibly is because we don't have official confirmation as of yet, and there's still a slight discrepancy with the concept art showing the vehicles seemingly descending where the lift hill would be. But the trouble is that despite this rendering being extremely detailed, it's hard to visualize the coaster from all the other angles for better cross-referencing purposes, as this concept art could be depicting these two other sections of the track where there are double banked turns close to one another that could also be a plausible match for this sliding sleigh roller coaster. And so for this to be the 335 track layout, the last thing to measure would be the overall footprint of this type of track compared to that of the space allocated for this roller coaster. And thankfully we already know of a roller coaster in Orlando that uses this 335 track layout, and that is the Flight of a Hippogriff at the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. And so if we measure the area of a Flight of a Hippogriff and compare that to the space within the frozen land, we can see that there is enough space for the 335 model. Therefore, I think it's pretty safe to assume that most likely we should expect the family-friendly 335 design for Wandering Oaken's sliding sleighs, as it matches the other criteria of it having a single lift hill, it has the same 2 people per ride car configuration, and will also utilise this new unified design of the Vekoma track. So with all of that taken into consideration, this means that we can logically deduce that it will have a ride time similar to that of Flight of Hippogriff, which is around 1 minute 6 seconds. But despite it being classed as just a kiddie coaster, it still poses potential to be quite an interesting attraction, as we can see from the concept art that it will be extremely elaborately themed around this mountainous terrain, and as the official description for the attraction indicates, that within the 25-second lift hill sequence, we can expect some form of animatronic interaction, as Olaf and Sven pull your sleigh up the hill to begin the ride. But that's not all in terms of Frozen, as we've also received this construction overview of the entire land thanks to Terry Chan, where we can see that the land will use a lower tunnel transition with a bridge for the railroad similar to that of Toontown in Disneyland. And also thanks to this new drone flyover of the construction of Arendelle World of Frozen, we can see that the current state of the land looks to be on target for a 2021 opening. And lastly for today, whilst we're talking about Hong Kong Disneyland, let's check in for a quick update on the Sleeping Beauty Castle transformation into what will eventually be known as the Castle of Magical Dreams, as this is the first time in Disney Parks history that a major castle icon has been dramatically modified with permanent changes that alters its overall height, as when this project is complete, it will have a new height of 167 feet tall. And despite the closures because of COVID-19, it seems that work has continued and this castle transformation may still be complete for its originally scheduled date of the resort's 15th anniversary on September 5th of this year. But now, it's over to you, Waltineers. I would like to know, what are your thoughts and opinions on this Wandering Oaken sliding sleigh roller coaster coming to that Frozen land? And do you think that Disney have been ambitious enough with these Frozen themed lands coming to multiple Disney parks around the world? And if not, then how would you dramatically enhance them or improve them with new rides within each one of the lands? And of course, don't forget about the timestamp for where the hidden Mickey appeared somewhere within this video, along with your suggestion or your comment, to be in with a chance when one of these official DSNY Newscast enamel pins. And congratulations to this Waltineer here for winning this suggestion from the previous video where we were talking all about the reopening news for Walt Disney World. And so that's it for today, so be sure to go ahead and subscribe down below if you're new to this channel, hit that notification icon so that you always receive an update, and also if you've enjoyed today's video then be sure to give this video a massive thumbs up, as it really does help this channel out. And I've been Jack, you've been you, and I'll see you real soon.